unreasonable behaviors that women exhibit, and it destroys their relationships and marriages. We're going to be talking about 7 unreasonable behaviors of women that destroys their relationships and their marriage. Whether you're single or you're married, there are 7 unreasonable behaviors. There are many more, but we want to zoom in on the 7 crucial behaviors of women that undermines their relationships and their marriages. It is important that you know this as a mother, so you can groom your daughter not to exhibit this kind of behaviors. Number 2, it is critical that you know this as a wife, so that you do not exhibit this and lose your husband. It is also critical that you know these behaviors as a single lady, so that you don't have to wait for a long time and wonder why you're not married. Several years ago, thousands of years ago actually, we had a situation whereby in the land of Persia, in the kingdom of Persia, there was a wonderful king by the name of Artaxerxes. And Artaxerxes was married to a woman by the name Vashti. And by the way, when we talk about Persia, we're talking about present day Iran or Iran. Now, the king at that time was married to a woman called Vashti. And there was this day when the king decided to put up a feast. And this feast was supposed to go on for a while. It was at this kind of a time that the king likes to display not only the assets and the arsenals of his kingdom, he also wants to display the beauty and the majesty of his wife. Unfortunately, he was dealing with a woman who had an unreasonable behavior. On the very day when the king was expecting his wife to be around, display her beauty and her majesty, the queen set up what we call a parallel event. So she decided not to come over to the king's event, which enraged the wise men in the kingdom. And they were like, listen, we're not going to have any of this. The long and short of it was that the wise men in the kingdom said, listen, O king, if we allow this woman to get away with this, other women in the kingdom will learn from her this bad behavior. And the ultimate consequence is that it's not going to be good for our kingdom. She is a toxic person. Her behavior is toxic. As a result of this, we need to get rid of her from the kingdom. That was how Vashti lost her place in the kingdom to a little girl who was less competent but well behaved. Very, very crucial that you take note of that. Esther was less competent, but Esther was well behaved. And you see, the story has not changed up till date. I've seen situations whereby some women will walk up to me and say, Pastor Sam, you can't believe who my husband left me for. He left me for that trash. That's what some people will say. He left me for that good for nothing girl. He left me for that uneducated girl. He left me for that. And there are so many descriptions that women will use to describe how less of a person the woman that their husbands eventually went out for compared to themselves. The reality is, yes, you may be competent, but if you are not well behaved, there's something about men that just can't stand a woman who is not well behaved. It is so funny to realize that for the same behavior, a woman will be judged higher and a man will be judged less. Now listen, society is not balanced. It is critical that you study the environment that you are in. What works in America may not work in Africa. What works in England may not work in South America. It is therefore critical for us to begin to deal with some of the unreasonable behaviors that women exhibit, and it works against their marriages and relationships. These are some of the things that I want to deal with today. And I'm going to, because of time, I'm going to rush through them very quickly. The first unreasonable behavior that men can't stand. One of the major unreasonable behaviors that men just can't stand in women is what we call nagging. You got me right, nagging. It's a good time for you to share the video, because it's better you get your friends on board now. You have a sister, you have a friend in the office, you have, a girlfriend, you have a wife, you have a sister's, your brother's wife, whosoever is within your network. Get everybody on board now, because trust me, you will be so glad that you got them on board. Great will be your peace. Great will be your peace. All right, so let's get straight to the first one. It's called nagging. The Wall Street Journal defines nagging as the interaction in which one person repeatedly makes a request, the other person repeatedly ignores it, and both of them increasingly become annoyed. Here's the point. Nagging exists when one person keeps making a request, the other person keeps ignoring the request. And when the request is ignored, the person who nags goes after the person who ignores and keeps repeating, keep pounding on the issue, until eventually a state of unrest ensues in that relationship, a state of discomfort. Now, women are exceptional when it comes to nagging. I'm not saying there are no men who nag. If you have a man who was overmothered and underfathered, you're going to see that tendency to nag. But generally, men can't stand a nagging wife. And one of the things that drives nagging is what we call unrealistic expectation, which can contaminate and ultimately destroy a relationship or a marriage. When a man feels that the expectation of his wife, her request, is unrealistic, is either he goes quiet, doesn't reply her, which again, yes, there's a need for the man to respond. But when some men don't talk a lot. So when a man feels this is just an unreasonable request, he may just go quiet and not respond to the issue, or just avoid you. Now, women with the grace, the tenacity, the resilience, the persistence that you have, you keep coming at the man, either to make a request, make a demand, insist that we discuss something. And when a man is got enough of that, he will start staying off home. He doesn't come back early. He wants to come back when you're about to sleep. Gradually, he begins to avoid you. And the next thing is, he begins to avoid intimate relationship with you. Over time, he begins to build relationship outside, just because he cannot stand a nagging wife. In fact, the scripture says it's better for a man to stay in the wilderness than to have in a house a woman who behaves like that. So if you're such a woman that believe that the only way to be heard is when you say it and say it and say it and say it, and you say it in the car, you find a way to say it in the kitchen, and then you find a way to say it again in the church, and you find a way to say it on the road. You just goes on and on. You keep whining. Now here's the point. That may be something that worked for you when you were growing up. It may be your strategy with which you used to achieve great things when you were growing up. But the challenge is this: in positive intelligence, we said what worked when you were growing up can become your saboteur when you are grown up. And nagging may have worked for you when you were growing up. Trust me, nagging is going to be a saboteur to you. It's going to sabotage your relationships, sabotage your marriage, and ultimately sabotage your career. So if you are someone who nags a lot, well, hear ye the voice of John the Baptist in the wilderness. Repent. Repent. Find a better way to communicate and trust that what you have said is enough. I'm going to say that again. Find a better way to communicate and trust that what you have said is enough. The man you're speaking to is not deaf. And I understand there can be some hard men, there can be some tough men. These are exceptions to the rules. But most men just want you to say it, and please, just don't whine and no. So if you have the gift of nagging, if it's one of the gifts you have, you are just graced, so to say, to nag, please, it's a useful gift for kids. Matured people don't use that gift. Matured women don't use that gift. Women who keep lasting relationships don't use nagging as a tool. Write it down. Matured women don't use nagging as a tool. Nagging is a proof of immaturity in a woman. Oh my. It doesn't matter how old you are. If nagging is your strategy, immaturity is your expression. What? Okay, I'm going to say that again. It doesn't matter how old, how exposed, how educated, how experienced you are. If nagging is your strategy, immaturity is your expression. Trust me, look around you. You will discover you are losing vital male relationships. You are losing men. You are gaining women but losing men, because no man can stand a nagging woman. Our brain is not wired for such kind of expression. Yes, Sylvia, thank you so very much for emphasizing that again. Oh my. You see the men are saying, Papa, tell them. Daniel Ehis, Papa, tell them. Yeah, I'm coming your way. Yesterday was your day, so today, nothing wrong. I'm going to say it. You nag a lot. Madam, you are destroying a lot with your nagging. You were not hurt because you nagged. Somebody just wanted to excuse you from their space. That was why they answered you. I'm going to say that again. The reason you got what you got was not because you nagged. Somebody wanted to get rid of you. It's the reason why you keep using nagging, because you think it is working, not knowing that you are becoming an annoying figure in the sights of people. Here is the call today. Stop nagging. You frustrate the people around you, particularly the man. Say it once and that's okay. Give some days and just give a reminder. But don't go on and on and on, morning, afternoon, in the kitchen. And you know, some of you women, you are so gifted, so anointed. You just told your husband now that you need to buy a car. Now, sweetheart, I'll be so glad if you can buy me a car. All right? Okay. So your husband said, thank you very much. I heard you. And I'll get back to you on that. And then you were driving to go and pick the kids with your husband. And then you saw a car. The next thing, in order to remind your husband, hey, sweetheart, that's the car I was talking to you about. That when you were leaving church, you saw another one of the same car. You're like, oh, sweetheart, that's the car I was talking to you about the other day. You're watching television, and that's the car. You just keep from every angle. You keep bombarding him. You are dancing inside your house. I can't just wait for the day my car will come, when your husband is reading. Madam, that is not being smart. Listen, we're just starting. Is that okay? So you better just reach out to your friends who are saying, well, I don't know why I lost my relationship. Now you know. Nagging was the reason why she lost that guy. So please share the video on WhatsApp, on every platform, and get your friends on board. Let them be a part of what God is doing right now. We can't afford to lose relationships again on the account of foolishness. Yes, we can't afford to lose relationships again on the account of foolishness. There are so many precious relationships that we have lost because somebody was nagging. And it is not wisdom to continue in that path. Let me take you to the second reason. The second unreasonable behavior that men find to be very, very uncomfortable. You need to take note of this. It is called contempt. Contempt. C-O-N-T-E-M-P-T. Contempt. This action, this behavior includes disrespecting a man, dishonoring a man, disregarding a man, demeaning a man, cursing a man, name calling a man. Such behaviors no man can stand. Such behaviors, there is just not a single man, whether he is a pope, a bishop, an archbishop, I don't care to know how godly he is. You cannot feed me with contempt and expect us to have a relationship. I'm not going to take it from my wife. Do me anything, but don't feed me with contempt and expect that I'm just going to just take it like that. So contempt, no man can survive in an atmosphere of contempt. Why? Men survive in an atmosphere where they have respect and honor and praise. These are the three things that a man needs to survive. Not food, not sex. Sex is wonderful, food is great, money is good, but trust me, no man can survive in a relationship where he is disrespected, dishonored, unappreciated. He is not affirmed, he is not praised. You name call him, you curse him, you demean him. No man can survive in such an environment. So if you're the kind of woman that disrespects the guy, now listen, when it comes to disrespect, sometimes ladies said, but I didn't do anything to disrespect him. What respect means to one man is different from what respect means to another. So here's the point. Find out what respect means to the man you are connected to. For some men who are traditional, respect means you come on bended knees if you are a woman. But not all men. So find and customize respect for the man you are engaged to, the man you are married to. Can I say that again? Find and customize respect to the man you are in relationship with. Respect for me is not what respect is for Mr. X. Here is the wisdom. As a woman, be smart enough to say to your man, teach me how to respect you. Never come to Mr. A trying to respect him with the way Mr. Former X demanded that you respect him. That will be respect by assumption. The best way to offer respect to a man in an acceptable way, if you notice, when it comes to worshiping God and giving him offering, there's something we call acceptable sacrifice. The same thing with men when it comes to respect. There are respects that are acceptable and there are others that are not acceptable. Find and customize the respect to the man you are in relationship with. Respect is about honoring the achievements of a man, the efforts of a man, even when the results have not started counting. Can I say that again? Respect is about honoring the efforts and the results of a man. Now, I'm going to break the two of them. A wise woman begins to respect a man when he is putting in effort before results begin to show up. And when the results come, she also shows him honor. She also gives him that regard for his achievement. So respect, permit me to make it clear, respect is about achievement. Respect is about valuing the efforts that somebody is putting into something before results even begin to show up. Respect is about saying, listen, I'm proud of what you are doing. I'm proud of your profession. I'm proud of the kind of work you do. It's what respect is all about. Honor is about the person. You honor the man because no matter how much a woman tries to play the role of a husband, she cannot be called a husband. She can do the duties of a husband, but the man is the one that is given that name, husband. And I'm not saying there are no irresponsible men. There are. The world is full of them. But I'm saying that respect. Men, learn to respect. And you know, some of you women who grew up with brothers, you grew up with your brothers, and maybe you compete with them, you fight with them. The danger sometimes is that you may grow up fighting with men, competing with men. So your upbringing can skew your perspective about men. And you may have also grown up in a home where your father was not such a person that commanded the respect of the family, because he made no efforts to achieve anything. He achieved nothing in the end of the day. And so you may have grown up with a man who was not a role model. The danger is that you may begin to use that perspective to judge all men. So never forget this. It is critical that contempt should never be a part of your behavior. Never disrespect a man, never dishonor a man, never demean a man. Avoid name calling a man. No man can stand that. It's critical that I let you know that. The other thing you do when you show contempt is you disregard the man. And the man can see it when he calls you, the way you come, the way you talk, the way you respond to him, and the way you roll your eyes, your body gestures. You just disregard him, you know. Now, no man can stay like that for so long. It takes life out of the relationship. All right, let's keep going now. Let me share with you the third unreasonable behavior that men can stand. It is called rejection. Rejection. And there are three kinds of rejection that men eventually react to. One is sexual rejection. As a married woman, it is dangerous for your husband to be served with sexual rejection. It is one of the worst kind of rejection that a man can't handle, particularly from his wife. Sexual rejection to a man is worse than career rejection. It is very personal to a man when he feels that his wife has rejected him sexually. Now, it is understandable that sometimes you may be extremely tired. Here is the case. If you're tired, tell him, sweetheart, that's for those of you who are married. Tell him, sweetheart, I'm so tired, but I'll make it up to you. And whenever you say I'll make it up to a man, don't expect him to wake up and come after you. Keep to your promise. Be the one that will wake up and go after him. So please take note of this. Rejection, sexual rejection, no man can stand that. And then when it comes to psychological rejection, emotional rejection that women sometimes throw at men. Somebody sent me a video today, very hilarious video, and the man was talking. It was a marriage seminar or so. It was on television, and the man was talking. Listen to what the man said. The man said, every time you see a man responds with physical abuse, a woman has already meted out emotional abuse to him. In essence, a man's response with physical abuse is usually predicated on emotional abuse being meted out to the man. Well, that can be debatable, but I'm just trying to give you a perspective how men think. So if you are a woman who usually meets out rejection, if you are single, you're not married, but you always have a way of throwing psychological rejection, psychological abuse, physical abuse, physiological abuse. If you do that, no man can stand an atmosphere of rejection. Every man wants to be in a place where he feels accepted. All right, we're going to be moving on, and then we're going to be getting deeper into this whole concept today. And I'm very confident of the fact that this will begin to help us in a great way to build very solid and healthy relationships. The next thing I want to share with you quickly is what I call withdrawal. It's a bad habit that men can find, they just can't take easily. When a woman practices withdrawal. What do I mean by that? Whenever you have a conflict, we understand that conflict is not healthy. But conflict is not a palatable situation. The reality, however, is that conflict is part of life. We all don't see things alike. We all did not grow up from the same family. Our perspectives to life totally different. Therefore, we are going to, from time to time, have a little bit of conflict of perspectives. It doesn't mean that the relationship is bad. It just simply shows that there are healthy human beings in the relationship. The worst thing that can happen is to have a situation whereby, because we had a conflict over an issue, as a woman, the next thing you start doing is that you start withdrawing. You pretend to now become silent. You don't want to talk again. You withdraw your engagement from your partner. You start offering silent treatment. You start staying alone. You start withdrawing from interacting with him physically and emotionally, sexually if you're married. Silent treatment, silent withdrawal. You start distancing yourself. You start practicing repression. You are angry on the inside, but you're trying to be calm on the outside. It is called withdrawal. And most men can notice it when they see it, that you are withdrawing. That's when your words become staccato. That's when your husband said to you, "How are you?" "Fine." "How are the children?" "Good." "How was your day?" "Beautiful." "How's everything with you?" "Nice." So you go into this staccato mode, and it just takes life out of the relationship. You emotionally distance yourself from your partner. Your husband wants to touch you. At that point, you react negatively. You don't want him to touch you. That's when you pretend to be sick. That's when you say you have some pains. The whole idea is you resent him. You don't want to have anything to do with him. It is something that men see and they truly hate in any relationship. It's a behavior that most women practice, but it hurts your relationship. Withdrawal is not a smart approach. Wise women don't withdraw. Wise women engage, and they engage right at the good time, at the best of time. It is not wisdom to withdraw. It's not wisdom to withdraw for a long time. There are moments where it is wise to say, okay, listen, the conversation is getting heated, so let me just de-escalate the tension by just going quiet at that moment. But it doesn't mean you withdraw from interaction. So withdrawal does not help a relationship. Withdrawal does not help a relationship at all. It doesn't help any relationship. It's critical that you understand that. Let me take you to the last three, and that's where I'm going to be touching on some serious matters. I want to talk about number 5, comparison. There's so much I would have loved to say, but because of time, so women, you seem to be having an escape today, but not towards this latter end. Comparison. Most of the men that have been interacted with say, listen, you know what? I can stand anything, but I cannot stand a woman who compares me. Compares me to our pastor. You know, our pastor takes care of his wife. You know, my brother, my father. You compare your husband to every man you know, your boss in the office, your neighbor who just bought a new car for his wife on her birthday. No man can stand the atmosphere of comparison. It kills a man. It destroys a man. It demeans a man. No man finds it palatable. And there are some of us who are very good at that as women. It is an unacceptable behavior. Once you marry a man, accept him for who he is, accept him for where he's going to, accept him for what he's going to become. No man can stand comparison. The Bible says those who compare themselves among themselves are not wise. So it is the ultimate mark of foolishness for a woman to be suggestively, overtly, covertly trying to compare your husband with somebody else's husband. It is the mark of foolishness, because the Bible says those who compare themselves among themselves with themselves are not wise. Once you marry a man, you have already accepted the pace of his growth. I'm going to say that again. Once you accept a man, you marry a man, what that means is that you will grow according to the pace of his destiny. There are men who don't prosper at the beginning, but in the middle. And there are other men who don't prosper at the beginning and the middle, they prosper towards the end. So you never compare a man who will prosper at the middle or in the middle. Compare him. Absolutely. Inspire him, but don't compare him. The next thing I want to quickly share is addiction. One of the unreasonable behaviors that men can't stand is addiction. No man can stand a woman who is addicted to something he does not find interesting. Alcohol, pornography, food, drugs, shopping, gambling. It's the point. It's the point. Lisa Bahar once said, your addiction quickly becomes the third party in your marriage. No man can stand a woman who has a third party as an addiction in his relationship. Meaning, when I'm supposed to be spending time with you, you are holding your phone on Instagram, on Snapchat, on TikTok, and stuff like that, always chatting with your friends. You are addicted to social media. So when your husband needs your attention, something else is stealing your attention. So we call your addiction the third party in your relationship. So many men are complaining these days that they are married to men who have brought a third party into their relationship. The same thing too goes with women who are complaining of the same. But trust me, men are not finding that funny anymore. And the reason is because women, you are mostly the creatures of conversation. So social media is where you truly exist. So addiction to social media, addiction to pornography, we're beginning to see now. Here, listen, can I break the table now? Okay. Woo. So here's what we're beginning to notice now. Across board, even among married women, men are beginning to find out that their wives are no longer feeling satisfied with them. Their wives are not spending time with them. Women now buy vibrators, sex toys, and oh my God, am I saying that here? I'm going to say it. Okay, so all the men, come on my support, please. I need all the men to start praying for me now. I need boldness, I need grace to speak now. All right, hey madam, listen, it is not godly, it is not right, if nobody's telling you, for you to have a healthy husband at home who has not refused you, who has not rejected you. It is not godly for you to have a man in your house and you keep him aside, and it's not that he's not ready to perform his sexual functions or his duties, only for you to replace your husband with sex toys, vibrators, masturbation. I know what goes on in the city, in my city here, and in most metropolitan city. Women connecting with women now, meeting in houses, drive to a place, and you go to that place in the name of going to visit your friend, your girlfriend. Other girlfriends meet with you there. When I hear some of these things, I cringe. Unfortunately, most of the women we're talking about are from church. Where do they meet with each other? Church. They get to connect in church. When I was hearing that, I'm like, are you serious? And I'm talking about the fact that I was speaking to a woman who is now being delivered from this kind of situation. She said, Pastor Sam, you will think we're having self-fellowship. You will think we're going for prayer meeting. No, that Pastor Sam, we all converge there. And she started talking about, if you've heard of so and so woman who happens to be a popular woman respected for her faith. She said, Pastor Sam, what do we all do there? We come and talk about the latest vibrators. We come with different sizes. We come and do all kinds of stuff. BDSM. We twerk in the room. We do pole dance. We do all this crazy stuff. We rub oils on ourselves. And I'm like, what? And she said, yes, this is what's going on. This is the reason why some women no longer have affection for their husbands. Addiction. Yes, I get you, Ene. You said it's so sad. Absolutely, ma. Somebody said, I've stopped taking notes because of how this is all getting. I mean, I really want to help us. Now, listen, don't miss tomorrow. Everybody watching me. I want to deal with something that nobody's talking about. Money, marriage, money and relationship. I'm going to break some things about money and marriage and relationship. Not having enough money, how does it affect marriage? Having enough of it, how does it affect marriage? The absence and the presence of money, how does it destabilize marriage? How does it destabilize relationship? How can you work together as a couple and build a successful financial life from the scratch? I will share that with you, and I have every right to share that with you because my wife and I built it from nothing. We built it as a team. All right? And I'm talking about the kind of wealth you build, and you can go to sleep not afraid that anybody someday will say, you stole my money, you took advantage of me. I'm going to be dealing with some things tomorrow. Put me in your prayer. Just keep praying for me. So let me, I know some of the women were praying that I will forget what I was saying. I will not forget. Addiction. We're beginning to see Christian women addicted to alcohol, Christian women on alcohol, Christian women on pornography. We're seeing that happening. We're seeing Christian women having extramarital affair as an addiction. They just can't do without somebody else outside. It's becoming an addiction that many men can't stand anymore. I don't want to go into the issue of food, alcohol, drugs, shopping, and gambling. You will not believe that in a day and time wherein we'll find ourselves, a mother will be involved in gambling. A mother. What we were not hearing before. Women are now becoming addicted to gambling. Gambling with their cars. Gambling with their houses. Women are gambling with cars. Somebody's going to help me with this. So we're beginning to see gambling coming up amongst women. Let me push it up. And the other thing we're beginning to see as a behavior, a behavior that most men can't stand, is what we call ungodliness. When a woman is wordless, listen, I say wordless. You know every movie on Netflix. You know every Nollywood movie is Zakaba part 1, is Zakaba part 2, is Zakaba part 3. As a mother, you are wordless. The word does not dwell in you. As a woman who will be raising the sons, the daughters that God has given to you, nothing dismays the heart of a man like knowing that he's going to work and he's leaving his children with a wordless wife. And if you're a wordless woman, you'll be a worldly woman, meaning the things of this world will preoccupy your mind. It's about the latest finger, acrylic finger, the latest Peruvian hair, Brazilian hair, Colombian hair, the latest, you know, all kinds of stuff. Who is wearing the latest Gucci? It's all about worldliness. It's all about carnal things. There's nothing wrong with looking good, but if that is what preoccupies your mind, it is the saddest thing in the life of a man. A man wants to leave home and leave his children in the care of a woman who will teach the children the way of God very early. Listen to what Paul said about Timothy. He said, Timothy, you know that from a childhood, Timothy, you have been exposed to the word of God. By who? He said the faith that was in your grandmother was transferred to your mother, and your mother has transferred it to you. Happy is the man who is married to a worded wife, not a wordless wife. For great shall be the peace of his children. I recently heard something that really impressed me. The Bishop Oyedepo, the Honorable Bishop Oyedepo of the Living Faith Church in Nigeria, just a few days ago said, I want to publicly congratulate my wife. He said, my wife was the one that schooled my children in the word. His wife will get Bible teachers to come and teach his children, his sons and his daughter, teach them the word when the father is not at home. Bishop Oyedepo was saying that they had to make his children to read every single book that the father had written. Little wonder today, see all of his children doing exceptionally well. Happy is the man, happy is the man who has a worded wife. What is the value of leaving wealth to children when the word is not in them? What is inheritance without heritage? Give your children heritage before you talk about inheritance. The absence of heritage will make children destroy inheritance. That was the problem with Solomon. Young girl, you are not yet married, and the only things you only read Meals and Bones, you read magazines, you read the latest fashion stuff. Sweetheart, marriage will put a demand on how much word you have. Sweetheart, when you go to your labor room, you will forget magazine. When it's time to push and the pain comes, you will, at that point, it will be clear if you have the word or not. There will be moments in life when your children will be tested. The trials of life will come. Your husband is not at home, and the devil comes to play with your kids. Ma'am, there's no pastor to call. There's no prophetic prayer hour in the morning. The devil shows up in your house. What are you going to do with acrylic fingers? The devil doesn't respect your fingers. He doesn't respect extended eyelashes. He does not respect Peruvian wares. The devil is looking for a mother like my mother and your mother who will get on their knees and get rid of all the fashionable stuff and say, Satan, you can't take my child. The devil is looking for such a woman so he can flee from them. Men are crying, Pastor, please help us. Our wives are becoming wordless. Number two, our wives are becoming prayerless. They are not like their mothers. Our mothers gave room to prayer. Our mothers were involved. Our mothers would pray midnight. My mother is over 80 something now. My mother still prays from 1 a.m. in the night, 12 a.m. in the morning until 4, 5 a.m. in the morning every day. My mother will fast 40 days every year. At old age, that is the legacy we had in the mother. Some of you who are young girls who come from praying moms, are you a praying daughter? What legacy will you pass on to your daughter? So God is calling the women to the place of prayer. When it comes to behaviors that men don't tolerate anymore, can't tolerate, ungodliness is one of it. That a woman is wordless, she's prayerless, she's spiritless, no spirit presence in her life, she's Christless. It is the worst thing a man can wake up to. A Christless wife, a spiritless wife, a prayerless wife, and a wordless wife. That will not be your portion. That will not be your portion. Listen, I see all of you are watching. I see you becoming like the mothers of Timothy, such that in the days and in the months to come, somebody will look at your son and say, what? I see the faith in you. That faith was in your mother. Oh, come on. That faith, my daughter, I see your mother's faith in you. Your mother's prayer life is in you. Come on, women of God, let's get up. It's time to get our prayer mantles back. In America, go and ask the African American community in America. The reason why many of these young people from the black community are successful is because they had mothers who will hold on to the altar. Mothers, African American mothers, who will hold on to the altars and begin to pray for every one of their sons and daughters until God blesses them. We were made to understand that there was a man by the name R.W. Schambach. The mother had about 9 children, and she prayed for every one of them to be saved, and 8 of them were saved by her prayer until the time she was dying. When she was dying, there was one left called Leroy. Leroy was stubborn. He will not give his life to Christ. And the mother of Schambach, R.W. Schambach, the mother, with her last breath, when she was about to give up, listen to what she said. Oh Lord, save Leroy. And she died. She lived prayerful. She died praying. Guess what happened? Barely a week or so after, Leroy was passing by the front of a church drunk, and something pulled him into the church, and that's how he gave his life to Christ, bringing into completion all her 9 children totally saved by the prayer of a mother. John Wesley, the mother had 11 children. She took care of them, paid their bills. The father was irresponsible, but the mother was a woman of prayer. She raised John Wesley. She raised Charles Wesley. All her children turned out to be highly successful. I'm talking about the power of a praying wife. Somebody asked a very important question. Why can't the men be the priest in their houses? Very important. Please, can I make a point? Every man who is watching must never abdicate 2 things: his kingship at home and his priesthood at home. Every man is expected to function as a priest and as a king. As a priest, he intercedes for the family, prays for the family, covers the family. Absolutely so. Number 2, as a king, he protects the kingdom. He watches over, he provides for the kingdom. So the kingship of a man and the priesthood of a man must never be compromised. However, it is critical that the king must be able to have in his kingdom a wife who is an intercessor, a wife who will spend time more with the kids, because kings always go to war. That's why we're talking about the importance of a mother who is wordful, a mother who has Christ. We're saying the man does not abdicate his responsibility. We're saying that the mother, David went to war. Before he came back, the Amalekites have captured his wives and the children. David went to war. Kings always go to war. Kings always will go to work. And I understand women these days who go to work. If you and your husband go to work, 2 of you must find a way to raise your children together in a godly environment. It is critical. There are so many things I'm going to be dealing with. This is already becoming an exciting time. Yes, Tundu Ojo, I hope I've been able to answer your question. Why can't men pray? Men ought to pray. The Bible says he left a parable with them saying, men ought always to pray. What we are saying is that men may not always be at home. Men may not always be around. And children usually are more comfortable with mothers. So it is therefore critical that when the father is not there to pray, may the Lord bless the children with a mother who is not wordless. That's what we're saying. We're not saying women carry the duties of a man. No. Every man must function as a priest and as a king. I'll be delving into that more when we come into dealing with roles. Are there gender roles? We're going to be dealing with all of that in subsequent editions of this event. Madam, you can see, you said the percentage of men in the church are less compared to the percentage of women. That is absolutely true. So it goes on to tell you that if we are going to be relying on this generation of men who are wordless and prayerless, the destiny of our children is in a big mess. Therefore, whilst preparing, whilst waiting for the men who are not going to church to come to church, let mothers arise. I, Deborah, arose when the men went aside as a mother in Israel. My father did not go to church. My mother took me to church. My son is happy today and blessed that I'm the one taking them to church. So never abdicate your own responsibility because your husband is not performing his. We're out of time, but we're not out of word. I love you so very much, and we want to keep our promise with you today. If you have any question, any concerns, please feel free. Send me your questions, send me your concerns. We're going to make sure that we attend to your questions and your concerns tomorrow.